And welcome to this week's edition of the Reigns on the Cardinals podcast here on STLSportsPage.com. Rob Reigns, Mike Reigns coming to you with our weekly Thursday chats here. And Mike, we finally got some good news to talk about with the Cardinals this week.
It was a very good week for the Cardinals, right? And I think if you look back to our podcast last week, I believe I may or may not have said that I think the Red Sox has some holes in their lineup. And I think if they play well against the Red Sox, which they can, it'll lead them with some good momentum into the week. And that's exactly what they did.
You did say that. It's on video. We can go back and find it, and there is evidence of what you said. First of all, a big thank you to all of our sponsors, our main title sponsors here on the site for keeping not only this podcast, but all of our other content on the site totally free without any paywall. Archwell Health, Rawlings Experience, Drury Hotels, and AAA Travel in Missouri, and as well as Tozy and Tozy Dental, Norenberg's Hardware, all of our great sponsors here on the site. So we couldn't do this without them. We really do appreciate it. Yeah. So just starting with the last games first, the Cardinals, of course, sweep the Baltimore Orioles. The suspended game on Tuesday night, they complete that win on Wednesday before the regular scheduled win. And I think the odd thing about that, of course, Mike, is the Cardinals had gone 0-6 so far this season when they had a chance to sweep a series. And not only do they finally break that log jam and sweep it, it's against the Orioles, a team that hadn't been swept in almost 2 years. 106 consecutive series that they had either split or won.
A crazy stat too, right? They also said that's about the same time that Adley Rutschman got called up. So he's never lost a series while playing. How crazy is that? Kind of a weird fluke stat, right? But it's an exciting thing to do. And hopefully this is the momentum you need coming into a very important weekend series here.
Yeah, we're going to get to preview that series against the Cubs here in a little bit later on the show. But the other thing I thought the key to that series, actually, and I know Henderson hit the 3-run homer off of Gray, after the error by Arenado in the one game. But then the fact that, or I know it was after the two errors by Wynn, right? In that game, that was the wrong game there. But anyway, we're going to talk about the defense here in a second too. But I thought Cardinals pitching staff, the starters, the bullpen, both did a really good job of controlling not only Henderson but Rutschman. I mean, they really kept those guys at bay.
They really did, yeah. And as we talked about before, the pitching has been a strong suit, right? The only thing that was probably the issue here was the rain more than anything else. Lance Lynn was looking very strong and in a good spot in that game, and then the rain came in and caused some issues there. And, it looked like Kyle was figuring out a little bit later, and then the rain came and slowed that one down. But the starting pitching certainly did what they needed to against the Orioles.
Yeah, and that obviously is going to be the key here as we go forward in this series. We'll talk more about the Cup series here in a second. We do want to say that hopefully you're not only enjoying this podcast, we do appreciate all of you for tuning in and all the comments that we hear each week about the podcast, but all of our other content up on the site. We do a game story every night, of course. It includes a lot of post games audio. Also, our sponsors, Archwell Health, contributing some stories about healthy heart screenings available for older adults. So be sure to check out all of our healthy lifestyle coverage. And of course, we give you some great tips about Father's Day sponsors. No hints here involved, Mike, with Father's Day coming up that we need to great barbecue items available. I think they're really kind of cute. So all Cardinal fans, as well as the barbecuers in your family who happen to be involved with Father's Day, so be sure to check out all of that site, our coverage on our site, as well as supporting our business when you buy from Fanatics or one of those local companies. So.
Yes, as we mentioned, Father's Day. Father's Day is a very important day. However, there may be a more important day, the day before Father's Day.
It may or may not be somebody's birthday, as well.
May or may not be somebody's birthday, yes.
Sometimes we have dual celebrations. Sometimes they happen to fall on the same day. So.
Yes.
That's been known to happen before, yes. So you can check out all that coverage as well elsewhere here on the site. Speaking about this, the week that the Cardinals had too, the other shout out we got to give us to the bullpen. I mean, I think we've talked before about the kind of, and I think Mason Wynn gave it a term, the three-headed monster that you have with Romero, Kittredge, and Ryan Helsley. But they've gotten great performances out of all those guys in the pitching staff. I mean, really, when you look at the pitching staff in general, in the 3 games against the Orioles, they give up one earned run. The Orioles scored 7 runs in the series, but 6 of them were unearned. So that's a pretty good shout out to the pitching staff. And when they got the main 3 guys in the completion of the suspended game on Wednesday, but then he had to turn to 2 innings from John King and 2 innings from Kyle Leahy, and then Ryan Fernandez finally got the save in the 9th inning to pick up the series sweeping win.
I was just about to say that it's nice to see some other options back there, right? Because you see JoJo, Kittredge, and Helsley kind of being like the 3 that, as Wynn called, the three-headed monster there. But it's nice to see some of the other guys stepping up. And John King looked pretty good, in that outing, right? Same with Ryan Fernandez. And so it's nice to see some added options when you get in tight ball games.
Yeah, because you're not going to be able to rely on those other guys every night. And again, we talked about before, sometimes you like to go to those guys when you have a lead in the seventh inning. And the Cardinals have basically been unbeatable when they've had a lead in the seventh inning. But you need those other guys to pitch as well. And the other thing is that bullpen's even going to get better when Keenan Middleton is about ready to come back. I mean, he's a guy that they were counting on in spring training. He got hurt, hasn't pitched at all. He's on a rehab assignment in Springfield. So I think you're going to see him sooner rather than later. We haven't seen Ryan Ludus yet. Congratulations to him for getting called up. Hopefully he will get in a game here soon. And Roycroft, I thought pitched well when he was up here. Not a guy that not a lot of people knew much about, but he was used in some key situations too. So I think they have to be more than pleased with how the bullpen has performed to this point.
The other thing to look at too is I think the bullpen's been able to perform so well this year because of the depth they're getting out of their starting pitching. You look at last year, and the bullpen was being used constantly in the fifth, sixth inning, and not just 7, 8, and 9. And here you're seeing a lot more of your starters between Gray, Gibson, and Lynn all go 6 innings. And that's making a big difference, I think, especially on the health of the bullpen too, which is when you want to rely on them to go back to back or multiple times. If they're not having to throw very many pitches, that's helping them out a lot.
Right, and that was what they counted on. I mean, that was what all those guys were among the innings pitched leaders in the American League last year. So I think they were counting on getting that kind of performance out of those guys. And I think the other thing they've done a really nice job of, I have to give the Cardinals credit, is they figured out how to use Ryan Helsley. I mean, I think before he was trying to come in sometimes in the 7th inning, sometimes in the 8th inning. Sometimes you were asking him to go 2 innings. Sometimes you're asking him to get 4 outs or 5 outs. I think really limiting him to just the 9th inning in a game that the Cardinals have a chance to win, or in an extra inning situation, it's a little bit different. But I think that's really helped keep him fresh. I kind of thought they might run him out there in the 9th inning of the second game on Wednesday just to try to finish off that series, but they didn't do it. And Fernandez wobbled a little bit, but they ultimately got the win by the 1 run there. So. I think that having Helsley healthy at the back end of that bullpen has been the difference maker that we kind of thought it would be, which we didn't have a year ago as well.
Yeah, and he certainly seems locked in when he comes in to start an inning, right? We saw him try to pitch, 5 outs last year a couple times, or the 2-inning save, and it just didn't seem to work as well. So I agree that if you can keep him limited to just the 9th inning alone, is going to make a big difference.
I want to give a shout out to a couple of the offensive players as well, as we're going to kind of shift from the pitching side to the offensive side. How about the job that Mason Wynn has done to this point?
He's been phenomenal, and he said it the other night too. He said, the pitching picked the offense up when we weren't doing well, and now the offense is picking up the pitching, and that's exactly the case. It's really nice to see some of these bats come alive, and I really like him at the leadoff spot. I don't know if it's going to stick just for left-handed pitchers versus righties, but man, I really like him in the leadoff spot.
He's 13-game hitting streak. It's a career high. Of course, he has a few months in the big leagues, but still, it's a pretty notable streak. Hitting .354 over that streak with 5 doubles, 2 home runs. So he's starting to show a little bit of pop as well. And then you have to think about how much he's been able to contribute to this club on defense.
And when you look at the lineup from an offensive standpoint, putting him in a leadoff spot and having Donovan behind him, or even Nootbaar, is really making a big difference too, right? So I think having him there is great. And definitely defensively, man, he's got an arm that can really make up for a lot of things and some range that gets there. He's still going to make a few mistakes because he's young. Obviously the 2 errors and then led to the home run, which wasn't great. And that's kind of been one of the things this week, that the defense slipped a little bit, but because the offense was there, you can get by with that.
Yeah, and we've talked before about how when things weren't going right with the offense, the margin for error was so small that you couldn't make one mistake really kind of cost you the difference in the ballgame, whether it was a defensive mistake, whether it was a pitching mistake, base running mistake, whatever it turned out to be. It didn't matter. Whatever that one mistake was, that was the difference in the ballgame. And when they were only scoring, all that stress they went through with the 3 runs or less on the offense. So him being able to sit there, and whether he's batting 8th or 1st, he's still been able to be a great contributor to the offense. And really kind of, you look at the people who are getting the job done offensively. We're going to talk about another one here in a second. It's not the main 2 guys that we've talked about all along, and Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt have to be the guys to carry this offense, because they're your 2 kind of cornerstone, all-star, Hall of Fame caliber players. They've been okay, but they haven't been as good as some of the kids.
And I think what you're starting to see too is when you watch some of these young guys like Mason Wynn, for example, he's really, they tell you when the game slows down is when you become better, and you can watch him at the plate, and the game really has slowed down to him, because you look at his pitch selection over the time, you look at last year to now, and he's swinging at the right pitches, which makes a big difference, right? And when you see the bottom half of the lineup come through, Now all of a sudden you look, goalie's starting to hit and he's starting to pick up that offense a little bit. And it's not as, the pressure doesn't feel like it's as high on him because the rest of the lineup's hitting around him, which is allowing him to relax and come through a little bit, I think.
Yeah, and Arenado's gotten some hits, just not hitting for power like everybody, expects him to do. The other guy that we have to single out who's been a big key contributor in the Cardinals' recent success is Alec Burleson. And we think back to spring training, and you think back to the time that when the Cardinals signed Brandon Crawford, we all kind of speculate, okay, well, what's this mean for the roster? And the guy you thought was going to be the odd man out was Alec Burleson. You just didn't see a path for him to make this roster with Brandon Crawford on the team and Matt Carpenter, but yet you want to behold, there he is. And now it's kind of like a situation where you almost want him in the lineup every day. He's got a 10-game hitting streak going in addition to wins 13-game streak. And all he's done during that streak is hit 405. So, I mean, I think that's something that, we really kind of didn't see coming as well. But, putting him right there in the middle of that 5-6 spot in the batting order has been, especially against, right-handed pitchers, has been a really good move.
He's a prime example of somebody who took advantage of the opportunity presented to them, right? So he was really able to jump into this and just do everything that he could to force the Cardinals' hand, right? He said, I'm going to play as well as possible, and you're going to have to play me because I'm going to be doing it. And he's been a big reason that they were able to win a lot of these games.
And especially with Contreras being out, I mean, he's the guy that's picked up some of that slack, whether he's fitting into the outfield in some occasions, and with obviously Walker being down as well, he's kind of taken up some of that duty in either left field or right field, whether you play Nootbaar there. So, and the DH spot more times than not. So yeah, I think with those two guys not being able to contribute, Contreras because he's hurt, and then Walker being down in AAA, he's stepped up and gotten the job done, and they really benefited from his play so far.
And I think he's probably a big reason that Walker hasn't been called back up yet. Walker's starting to play nice down there, but when you're getting the production out of Burleson that you are, there's no real reason. I'm not saying that Walker won't get called up soon, he probably will, but he's allowing them to not have to do that right now because of how well he's playing.
It's Rob Rains and Mike Rains visiting with our weekly chat, Rains on the Cardinals podcast here on STLSportsPage.com. Thanks again to all of our great sponsors. You see them there on the site who make all this coverage possible. If there was one negative kind of about the way the Cardinals have played this week, and you alluded to it a couple of minutes ago, it's on the defensive side. They've now got a streak of at least one error in 9 consecutive games. That's the longest streak like that since they had a 10-game streak in 2002. But, luckily they've been able to overcome some of those mistakes. And I think that's kind of been a little bit uncharacteristic part of this team's performance, because that's one thing we thought they were going to be able to do was catch the ball. And I think, by and large they have, but just one mistake here and there has cost them.
And it does seem odd when you see Arenado make errors too, right? Because you look at him as a guy who makes some of these ridiculous plays at third, and you're like, wait, you're human and you miss some of these too. But I also think when you notice – it seems to me like it's a lack of communication when they're in the field. You look at the play the other day with Arenado running backwards and the ball over his head. Why wasn't Donovan calling him off as he's coming in on that ball instead of going back? And so I think it's one of those of like, they're just kind of making, I don't want to say bonehead mistakes, but it's just kind of, mistakes that they're better than that. They just need to communicate and talk and get it figured out.
And it does seem like concentration sometimes is the key to that. And as what I mentioned a minute ago, or I didn't mention when we were talking about Mason Wynn and Burleson, I think the other factor that's been key to their success, and I think you need it on defense as well, is confidence. I mean, you watch Michael Ciani play in center field, and he's been another guy that's really stepped up and contributed to this ball club and done so offensively lately as well. When you see a fly ball go up into center field, there just doesn't seem like a ball that he's not going to catch. I mean, it just doesn't seem like a ball he's not going to be able to run down. And that's, I don't think we saw his contributions coming to this team as well.
And I think the guys that we have on defense are really good at getting that first step and getting that jump to a ball. And so I think that's why you see Mason Wynn, Arenado, and Donovan all right there around that one ball, because they're able to get to it. And so that's where, to me, the communication factor really comes in, because like you said, Ciani can get to a lot of things in center, and the speed that Nootbaar has can really close a lot of gaps too. So they just need to talk and communicate when they're out there as well.
Well, we mentioned the sweep over the Orioles. Cardinals have now won 8 of 10 games. They're 23-26, back to just within 3 games out of 500, and moved up into 4th place, or Yeah, no, third place, right in the division. So it's third place. So it's about to get interesting this weekend at the ballpark because the Cubs come to town. First time the Cardinals and Cubs will see each other this season. Cubs right above them in the standings, and there's a lot of things to look forward to about this series, specifically starting with the game on Friday night. Two things in particular about that game: it'll be Shoto Imanaga pitching for the Cubs. Miles Michael is going for the Cardinals, and everybody will be tuned in to the Valley Sports Midwest broadcast to hear Chip Carey and Joe Buck describe that game. Should be fun.
It will be a very fun game and a fun series for sure. Excited for Carey and Buck to get that opportunity to do that. But yeah, it's a really important series with the Cubs coming in, right? They're a little bit down coming in, having won 4 out of 6, and we're coming in, winning 8 of our last 10. So let's hope we can ride that momentum into that game on Friday.
I am really looking forward to seeing Mr. Amanaga pitch on Friday night, although I probably shouldn't be if I want the Cardinals to win. He came over from Japan. Everybody talked all about Mr. Yamamoto and how expensive his contract was and how great he is was going to pitch for the Dodgers, and he has pitched really well. He had the bad start in Korea when the season began, but since then it's been very good. But he hasn't matched what Mr. Yamamoto's done for the Cubs, which was here's coming into his start on Friday night, 5-0. 0.84 ERA, 9 starts. Oh yeah, the Cubs are 8-1 when he starts, and the only game they lost, they were shut out 2-0 by the Braves. 53 innings pitched, 58 strikeouts, 9 walks. I think, and we talked about how the positive the Cardinals starting pitching has been. They do still have some issues at the back end of that rotation. He would have looked awfully nice in the Cardinal uniform.
He would have for sure, and I think obviously it's going to be a tough game on Friday, but I think the benefit to the rest of the series is, outside of him, the Cubs starting pitching has really not been very good. They're having all kinds of issues. Kyle Hendricks just got moved to the bullpen from a starter because he can't figure it out. Javier Assad has really started to slip these last couple starts, so I haven't looked at their rotation to see who's starting this weekend, but it hasn't been as strong as we think it is. So I think that's the highlight for the Cardinals, and hopefully they can take advantage of a slipping Cubs team. Yeah,
Justin Steele, who was their revelation last year, has been hurt, so I'm not sure where he is on his comeback trail as well. So I think that the Cardinals, obviously, Michaelis has kind of seemed like the last start he tried to figure out a little bit too and pitch better, kind of like Lynn did in his last start. But I think the big question for the Cardinals going into the rotation this weekend is what they do on Saturday night, game 2 of that series. It appears, and no announcement yet, while we're talking and taping this broadcast here on Thursday, that Mr. Libator will get that start again because he pitched a full bullpen before Wednesday's games. That was what you normally do on that day if you're going to start. Obviously, hasn't come in relief in the last couple of days and against the Baltimore Orioles. So by and large, it looks like that he's going to get that start, although nothing official. And I think it's kind of interesting, and you and I were talking about this before we sat down to tape the show. It means a couple of things. Number one, it means that they're still searching for somebody to fill that spot. And even though he has not really done great in that spot, and certainly done better in the bullpen role, the Cardinals still feel like he's their best option when they need a starter. Ali Marmol said earlier this week, he goes, "We have a hole in our rotation that we can't fill." Well, you have to have somebody start, so it looks like it's going to be him. But it's kind of an indictment, and he kind of did it with, I think kind of threw the organization under the bus a little bit about not having other pitchers ready at the AAA level. You've got some guys who are former first-round draft picks who can't get a shot at the big league level right now because the Cubs organization just doesn't feel like they're ready.
Yeah, it's really the question mark is it on the front office missing the particular player in the draft, or is it on the teaching and coaching once they get signed, right? But the fact that there's not a major league starter ready at AAA to come up here and cover these innings a little bit better, and Libator's been okay, maybe average, not great, but the fact that we don't have somebody else ready to go at AAA level is a big question mark for this organization.
You've got Zach Thompson and Michael McGreevy, both first-round picks in the rotation at Memphis. Thompson was better in his start the other night. Even Andre Palante's in the rotation at Memphis as they try to stretch him out a little bit. And then you got Cooper Jerpy, who was a first-round pick a couple of years ago. He's still pitching in Peoria. So, and all those guys were college level, junior level, senior level college starting pitchers. So you would think they would have progressed farther in this career. Gordon Graceffo was a fifth-round pick out of Villanova, and he's in the rotation at Memphis, not a first-round pick. But all those guys, they seem like they're getting close, but just won't haven't been able to earn that shot. And then the couple of the guys that they picked up in the deadline trades a year ago are pitching okay. Robersay at Memphis, we kind of think maybe he might get a shot and get considered for one of these roles, but the club's just not ready to make that commitment to bring him up and start him. And more also today, it would be different too if you're looking at just like a temporary situation where you needed somebody to pitch one game, just a spot start situation. But they're asking somebody to come in and probably be a regular member of that rotation for the time being, because it doesn't seem like Steven Matz is close to coming back either for a while.
Yeah, and obviously we're not in the room when these trade discussions are happening or what's going down, so we can only hear about the rumors that leak out afterwards. But we've constantly heard that Gordon Graceffo is a guy that they don't want to trade and that he can't be involved in any of these trades. Well, if he can't be traded and he's not ready to pitch up here, what are we doing? What purpose is he serving if he's not here? So right. It really just begs the question of why are these guys untouchable if they're not ready to pitch here?
I really do like some of the Cardinals' young pitching prospects. They've got Tinkans, they've got Takeo Roby at Double-A. You just moved up Quinn Matthews to Peoria, but they're obviously those guys are not ready because they're not at the Triple-A level yet. So the Cardinals just trying to kind of mix and match and get through the situation until they figure out what to do about the pitching. And we can talk more about this as we get closer to the draft in July. But I think it really does put an emphasis on how important this year's amateur draft is. And I know people kind of get, I'm obviously a big draft nerd, if you want to call it that, so I get more into it than a lot of people do. But this year, I think it's really important. The Cardinals have the 7th overall pick in the draft. Will be their highest pick since 1998. And the fact that they gave up their 2nd-round pick to sign Sonny Gray, they don't pick again until the 3rd round. They really have to nail that 1st-round pick, whether it's on a college pitcher like Hagen Smith of Arkansas or Chase Burns of Wake Forest. They have to nail that pick, or even if they get a position player out of the college level. They can't miss this. They have to get it right.
They have to get this one right. Absolutely. And, they have to get a major league ready player within a couple years with this 7th overall pick. And obviously, as we get closer to the draft, we'll talk more about that. But yes, needs to happen for sure.
Another thing to look forward to this weekend out the ballpark, the Cardinals will break out. They were revealed the other day, but will be wearing for the first time the City Connect uniforms. What's your reaction to those things?
My initial reactions are very cool. And I really liked the video that they did. Obviously, being in St. Louis, you're a big Nelly fan. Well, some of us are more than others, but I thought the video that they did was very well done, very cool to tie the city together, but also keep the traditional marks of the Cardinals at the same time.
They will be wearing those uniforms this weekend. I think there's 12 games over the course of the season that they're going to be wearing them, and we will have those available for sale as well through Fanatics on our website starting on Sunday. Kind of have to wait till the Cardinals wear them for the first time, but that's the shot of those there. So I think they're kind of better than some of the other teams. I think City Connect uniforms that we've seen over the last couple of years. Cardinals been waiting to do that, so good for them to kind of get a design and a layout that I think a lot of people have been positive to. So after the 3 games, go ahead. I'm sorry.
One of the unique features about them is they're the first jersey. So they've got the river pinstripes on them, right? They made it look like the river of the Mississippi. And so I don't know if you heard Bill DeWitt say this or not, but they're the first team to wear a curved pinstripe like that. And all of the pinstripes have only been straight. So it's kind of a unique jersey in that sense too.
And I heard he also had a couple little Easter eggs in there. They've got the arch and the fleur-de-lis, and they've got the 1882 stitch on the back, which the Cardinals have now basically said was the year the team was founded, even though it didn't have the name Cardinals and didn't become a charter member of the National League until 1892, 10 years later. So kind of some interesting elements that they put into that too. And just the red, I think, looks good. I know one of the things they considered, which I'm glad they're not going to do, was wearing red pants. I thought that would have been a little bit too much. But
yes,
the red,
I believe Bill said it looked too much like pajamas.
The red top, which is kind of basically what they've been doing in spring training for the last few years, wearing their red jerseys during spring training. So obviously regular birds on the bat logo. So that's good. So the 3 games against the Cubs. Of course, the Saturday night broadcast is the Fox National Game broadcast, and then Sunday night, weather permitting, the forecast not very good on Sunday as of right now, is the ESPN broadcast. So a national audience for those 2 games after the Cary Buck game on Friday night makes it a big weekend, and then no rest for the Cardinals after that. They do get, of course, have the day off on Thursday, as they were talking here, but then they start a road trip to Cincinnati, Philadelphia, and Houston, and all the Phillies have done is won 36 of their first 50 games, playing the best of any team in the major league. So that's not going to be an easy road trip for the Cardinals either.
It's not, for sure. And these 3 games against the Cubs are really important to lead into the momentum for that week and also make a difference in the standings, right? I know we say it's early and we don't care about the standings, but we need to be in it. And, after this
games
week
count.
right now,
all the games count.
you're one game out of a wild card spot. So you're putting a competitive team on the field with the way they're playing.
Well, let's hope the Cardinals and Cubs have an entertaining series of Busch Stadium. We'll be there to have all the games covered for you here on stlsportspage.com and any of the other interesting side notes that happen as well. Mike, thanks for the visit. You enjoyed the holiday weekend as well. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, you too.
That's Mike Raines. I'm Rob Raines here for Raines on the Cardinals podcast for stlsportspage.com. Thanks for watching, everybody.